Welcome back to the channel, y'all. I just wanted to kind of be transparent today and say that, I don't earn much from music yet in the specific terms of, worldwide liquid economic currency, so to speak. But one thing I can say is that I've learned to try my very best to not waste money. Investing in the right access, the right assets, the right tools, relationships, and the right environments. That mindset is what will eventually allow me to make a living doing this. Let's face it, we've allowed the financial aspect of our musical creative journey to be private because we're either struggling or we're just enjoying it for fun, hoping that it can be something so much bigger. I first learned about the American Federation of Musicians when I was acting as a musician on the Dynasty television series. The production company was going to transfer only about $100 to invest in my musical abilities, but the AFM intervened. They secured $1,000 for me and sent me the check in the mail, along with an invitation to join. That's how I got access to professional support, resources, and contracts that I wouldn't have found on my own. Now I'm able to essentially play a $100,000 Steinway Sons, an asset that represents both my creative equity and a tangible high-value investment in my craft. It's not just an instrument, it's part of my personal portfolio of skills and resources that appreciate over time. I believe that this is an incredible investment strategy to me because it's wealth building creatively, the fun way. Leveraging human capital, strategic asset allocation, and reinvesting returns in skill, tools, and opportunities rather than just liquid currency. I believe that those things can help us to essentially start to earn a return on our investments if we invest properly into our creative aspects, creative allocation. Before the sound, there's always capital, not money for money's sake, but the cost of clarity. Every frequency you hear comes from an investment someone made: time, tools, energy, focus. I treat my instruments the same way investors treat portfolios. Each sound has to yield something: emotion, direction, or growth. I've got the whole basement level to myself, enough space to work, but not enough to play drums the way they're meant to be played. That's the thing about sound. It has scale, and sometimes your environment can't handle the return on that kind of energy. So I came here to the AFM. This isn't just a rehearsal, it's an investment. I'm investing in a sound that doesn't fit inside residential real estate limits. That's what it means to scale up, not just financially, but also creatively. I spent a lot of time shaping the snare because for me, it defines my percussion identity. That snare cost around $400 USD. And I say that not to be a flex, but to disclose the cost of precision. I invested that amount of liquid capital into one sound because I've learned that as your skill grows, your tools should match your trajectory. The concept is simple: buy once, cry once. Why purchase 10 times when you can invest once? Sometimes the most expensive choice is the most responsible one, because it preserves value over time. Depreciation is unpredictable, but quality is stable capital. Most artists already know the gear, the new MPC, the new Moog. Awareness isn't our weakness. The real weakness is playing it safe financially while trying to grow creatively. Don't buy what you can't afford. or excuse me, don't buy what you can afford, buy forward. That's what investing is, projecting belief into the future. A divestment is the opposite. Purchasing backwards. My hope is that as we invest in our sound, our tools, and our spaces, we also align ourselves with institutions and communities that grow in value, both intellectually and financially, as we move together. Every sound that I build is a form of capital. Skill appreciates like an asset when you maintain it, and consistency compounds like interest. My catalog is my portfolio. Each track, another investment, another position in the market of creative longevity. Some tools are liquid. You can sell them and recover value. Others, like your timing or your taste, are long-term holdings that never depreciate. Just like real estate, sound needs the right property. You can't expect growth in the wrong environment. And in a creative market that's always shifting, I focus on what doesn't fluctuate: tone, time, and discipline. Every hour I spend has a return. Maybe not immediately, but it compounds quietly. That's the unseen equity. The growth that doesn't announce itself until years later. I'm building long-term value, not chasing virality, but constructing something that can hold worth over time. Art as an appreciated asset, sound as capital, presence as the portfolio. And there's more to it. Leverage isn't just for finance. I leverage my environment, my tools, excuse me, and my time, placing each element where it produces maximum yield. The instruments I choose aren't just for immediate satisfaction. They're positions in my long-term creative account. Each drum hit, each roll, each carefully tuned tone is a deposit that compounds over months and years. Even risk is part of the calculation. Experimentation is volatility, but control volatility. If you never risk, you never see growth. That's the difference between active investment and passive stagnation. I measure return not just in sound, but in skill and instinct, in the way my craft responds to future challenges. Every creative decision, from choice of snare to rehearsal environment, is a micro investment. They might not pay off immediately, but the compounding effect is real. Like in finance, patience and consistency create appreciation. Focused attention and deliberate choices accumulate equity over time. That's how creative portfolios grow, not through hype, but through disciplined, intelligent accumulation. Ultimately, I see my practice, my instruments, and my sound as a balance sheet. Debits, credits, investments, and retained earnings. Every element of my process has value. And when I step back, it's not just music I've built, but a system of assets, skills that appreciate, tools that retain value, and time that compounds into long-term creative wealth. That's the return I care about most. Growth that cannot be taken away. Assets that endure, and the ability to keep scaling without losing integrity. For I say about since I was in the 7th grade, and this instrument, my Con 20K, has been a partner in that journey. I paid a couple $1,000s for it, and I knew it was worth every penny. Why? Because it's a benchmark asset, the standard of quality recognized by professionals and collegiate musicians alike. Vintage models like this one carry added perceived value in the market. Materials, craftsmanship, and brand equity may shift over time, but recognition and reliability remain. And that's a form of capital. Think of it like long-term investment. portfolio, you're not buying a stock for a quick day trade. You're buying it for stability, appreciation, potential, and generational recognition. This Con 20K isn't just a sousaphone, it's a tangible asset in my creative portfolio. Every hour I spend with it compounds into skilled equity. Every note I play is a dividend, returning confidence, precision, and presence. That's ROI you can't hear. And also being at the AFM gives me the real estate, literally the space, to leverage this asset fully. Headroom matters. In finance, you can't scale without proper infrastructure. The same applies to sound. This space allows the air to flow freely, the tone to resonate, and my technique to compound into a sound that reflects decades of careful capital allocation and tools and practice. I don't treat instruments like expenses. I treat them like a strategic allocation. Each one is an asset capable of appreciation if nurtured correctly. The Con 20K is high liquidity infrastructure. It can retain value, generate returns in performance, and even increase in market recognition over time. Aligning myself with instruments that hold market weight is like building a blue chip portfolio. The goal isn't temporary height, it's compounding value that endures. Playing here in this space with this instrument is like exercising financial principles through art. Maximize your asset, let the equity appreciate, compound returns through skill, consistency, and deliberate practice. Every breath, every note, every nuance is a deposit in my creative portfolio, building long-term value that, unlike most fleeting trends, stands the test of time. I learned to speak fully and freely through the trumpet. And in that, I learned to be honest and transparent. This was the first brass instrument that I ever played, ever learned, and it became the foundational asset in my brass portfolio, my entry point into the world of all brass. Every note I've always played here has been an investment into skill equity, compounding over years of practice and attention. I don't always get it perfect, and I don't need complex melodies to create beauty. The returns aren't always flashy, but they accumulate steadily. Gratitude becomes a dividend, and consistency is the interest that grows quietly in the background. This instrument taught me that even small, deliberate allocations of time and energy, like a few minutes of focused practice, can yield long-term creative wealth. I've never played this instrument before in my life. It's called the trombonium, a hybrid of trombone and euphonium. Sitting here on display on the in the AFM, excuse me. Access like this is an investment and opportunity. Most people never get the chance to explore instruments like this. But being granted it is like being allocated capital in a new market. The time I spend here compounds skill and knowledge I otherwise wouldn't have. Exposure is an asset, experience is equity, and in every note I discover is a return on investment of access. Without this opportunity, I would remain ignorant of its nuances. Now each session adds to my creative portfolio, expanding both my craft and the long-term value of skill that I hold now. The guitar doesn't need as much space as the AFM. So I can record it in our residential real estate. But while the space is smaller, the sound is amplified by my favorite effects. Pedals, the Mercury X, the Roland Space Echo RE101, Chase Bliss Dark World Reverb, Ibanez TS9 Tube Screamer, and the classic Crybaby wah pedal. Altogether, that's roughly $2,000 of carefully chosen assets, mostly out of sight, but never out of mind. Each pedal is like an investment in my tone portfolio, adding diversity, leverage, and growth potential to the final sound. The most expensive pedal here costs about $1,000, and the most economical is the wah or the tube screamer at around $80. But it's not just price, it's allocation. I'm thinking in terms of ROI. Which gear produces returns in sound, presence, and skill growth? Transparency about cost and investment in the creative space can't be taboo. It's not always the skill level that makes the difference. Sometimes it's the mindset, the deliberate allocation of capital and tools, and the environment you choose. Every choice, from guitar mod to pedal combination, is like managing a micro portfolio. Some investments are high risk, some steady. The goal isn't vanity, it's yield. And when you approach sound this way, your creative asset, they grow in value, both for your craft and for the world that experiences it. Sound becomes capital, tone becomes equity, and the return, well, it's audible. Sometimes in my horn choir type arrangements, I'll write many layers. Not all of them make it into the final take, but each idea is like a micro investment into the portfolio of the arrangement. Rehearsing and exploring these possibilities compounds skill and expands my creative equity. Even discarded ideas aren't wasted. They contribute to the long-term growth of my sound, teaching me which assets are worth holding and which to divest. In terms of completely different characters and roles, the tenor saxophone provides a smooth, melodic voice amidst the more abrasive, resonant brass sounds. I picked this tenor sax up for a couple $100 on Marketplace, well below its market value. That's part of what I've learned about musical instruments. They rarely lose value. People often depreciate them too quickly to sell, but like good art, instruments retain worth. They're tangible assets in a creative portfolio. Musical instruments are also the reason pawn shops stay in business, because their value endures even when the market tries to discount it. This isn't my specialty, but there are certain things you should experiment with to expand your horizons, broaden them if you will. Even if you're not amazing at them, every new skill or perspective is like a small investment into your creative capital. Potential knowledge becomes kinetic when you can relate it to other areas of your craft. I try different approaches even if it's not naturally my thing, because it helps me connect the dots and understand the inner workings of other musical relationships. You don't need to be a professional to apply simple principles that can be life-changing. The most popular songs often rely on basic techniques executed with precision. Think of it like investing in low-risk, high-learning opportunities. You might not see immediate returns, but the skill, equity, and insight you gain, it compounds over time. Each experiment, each unfamiliar approach is a deposit in your creative portfolio. Eventually, these small investments shape your broader understanding, your taste, and your ability to innovate, producing returns far beyond the initial cost or effort.